Kindness flows with gentle boundaries. Freedom breathes within this circle. Open circle, we are here. Open circle, drawing near. We unlearn what once confined us. We remember who we are. Kindness given without condition. Freedom held with quiet strength. Open circle, we are here. Open circle, drawing near. You are welcome in this space. You are safe to simply be. Take your time and find your voice, or just rest in quiet presence. Open circle, we are here. Open circle, drawing near. Open circle, holds us now. Open circle, soft and true. Open circle, breathing slow. Open circle, we are. Open circle, holds us now. Open circle, soft and true. Open circle, breathing slow. Open circle, we are.
Without love, we are lost in the void, adrift among the stars.
So I'd like to say welcome everyone to the channel. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for being here. This is the Open Circle. It's a space for conversation, presence, and shared experience. So you don't need to perform here. You don't need to have answers. You can just arrive as you are. So I thought what we could do is just introduce the theme. So tonight's theme is something simple, and you could say, yes, it's very deep, but it's around kind freedom to be kind. Kind freedom to be kind. So for many of us, kindness was complicated. Sometimes it was conditional, sometimes it was expected, and sometimes it came without boundaries or with pressure attached. So this space is an experiment. So what does it mean to give kindness freely and also receive it in a healthy way? So maybe we can expand on that. Feel free to mention what that means to you in the comments. So kindness is something that flows. obligation is something that binds. So is that a clear difference between kindness and obligation? Is it important to just state that? You see, many of us were taught to confuse the two, kindness and obligation. So part of this freedom in being kind, having the freedom to be kind, is learning in a balanced way when to say yes, when to say no, and when to listen, and when to step back. And maybe even more challenging is learning how to receive kindness without being overly suspicious, guilty, or fearful. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have street smarts, but it's learning to have a balance. So maybe there is a metaphor for this. It's a bit like learning to breathe again, right? Just breathing. I mean, when we think about breathing, okay, I'm paying attention to it. So breathing normally isn't forced. It's not controlled. It's just a natural function. So it's like that. So, of course, I'd love to hear from you in the chat. Feel free to speak up there in the live chat. Perhaps just to kind of oil it, or just to spark discussion, here's a question. Okay, so what is kindness meant in your experience? Has it been something safe or something very complicated, right? So please feel free to say something. And of course, as things progress in the live stream, we'll see if we have an opportunity just to open up the circle for anybody who'd like to join on video. We'll post a link there and see if we can open things up that way. So just a couple of guidelines to keep the space supportive. Please feel free to share reasonably brief commentary with the view that others can join. Of course, if there's opportunity to speak more, we're not hard and fast to any particular rule, but just please keep it in mind just to be reasonable with brevity, just so that others can come in. And then, of course, feel free to speak from your own experience. No right or wrong, but let's also respect different perspectives. We've got a cross-section of persons here, so let's do that. And of course, most importantly, kindness without boundaries. Feel free to be kind, because we don't have to agree with everyone. But we can meet each other with respect. And so that's crucial, because we want to do our best to prevent derailment, right? We want to do that. So that's how we would like to begin opening the circle. So, of course, if you'd like to join, I'll share the link. It'll be shared shortly. Take your time, no rush. And if you're just here in the chat, you're just as much as part of the open circle space as anyone. And we'll just see who arrives. No pressure. So again, the purpose of opening this up, this isn't here to just, teach, here's some chap here, beard, teaching. No, that's not what it's about. It's about community, and it's about trying to hold the field, right? That's what it is. So if you want to share something personal, yes, it takes courage. If you want to just share something light, also that can be an act of courage. And we want to do our best to protect the space as a community. Sometimes there might be some kind of intense ideological thing that comes through, and that's what is shared, you know. But let's endeavor to try and bring things to personal experience. Let's try and do that. So we're not going to have one particular voice necessarily taking over. We can just, you know, sometimes pause just to hear from others too as well. We've got incredible people who have held live streams in exceptionally dignified ways. So this open circle, it's endeavoring to learn from those spaces. So what are we going to talk about today, just to kind of oil the wheel here, or the circle? What are we talking about? Well, for those that saw the post on the YouTube, again, this is just about being a place where we can be welcoming wherever you are in the world. So thank you for being here. I've got to tell you that it is with gratitude and appreciation that I feel towards you who have come into this open circle space. It's a space for conversation, it's a space for presence, and of course shared experience. Yeah. Now, did I mention it's not vital to be so focused on performance here? No, it really isn't. So there's no pressure to feel like, oh, you know, you have everything figured out. We have it all sewn up. We have it all worked out. No, it doesn't have to be like that. So you don't need to be anything other than what you are right now. I hope that sounds open enough. You're welcome just to listen. You're welcome just to participate spontaneously, and you're welcome to take your time. So today or tonight, depending on where you are on whatever particular time zone or day, because you might be in a Wednesday or you might be in a Thursday, depending on your time zone, I just wanted to explore something simple together. Some might say, oh, Matt, this is quite deep. And yes, it is. But it's the idea of the kind of freedom to be kind. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, Matt, that sounds real obvious. It's real obvious. What, you know, how is that profound? You know, kindness is something. Most of us would like to say, well, we understand that. We comprehend this, Matt. Okay? At least on the surface, you know. But for many people, especially coming out of, and I'm going to frame it as negative high control environments, right? Negative high control environments. Kindness hasn't always been simple. Now, why do I say this? Because sometimes kindness came with expectations. Sometimes it came with conditions. Sometimes it was tied to approval or belonging, community belonging, or being seen as, you know, a good person. And so sometimes what was called kindness didn't actually feel kind. So part of what we're doing here today, is just gently exploring that. Not trying to define it perfectly, going, here it is, you know, but to feel into it again in a way that is our own. A balanced, healthy outcome. So here's a question. What does it mean to be kind freely? What does it mean to be kind freely? Not because we have to. Not because we're expected to. Not because we're afraid of what happens if we're not. But because it arises naturally. And alongside that, what does it mean to receive kindness in a healthy way? Because that can actually be just as challenging. Some people, you could say, are natural born givers. Some people find it easy to give. But those same people may find it very difficult to receive. Kindness might feel unfamiliar or undeserved or even suspicious or how can I say this? Superstitious. Oh, there's kindness. Now it's going to be followed by doom. So we or you might wonder, what's behind this? Is there a cost? Is there an expectation? So there's something quite profound in learning how to receive kindness. I'm going to say graciously, without being overly fearful, without being guilted into it, without feeling like, oh, you owe something in return. Just letting it be what it is. So there's something important here about boundaries, right? So the community may know a lot about boundary setting, because kindness without the proper boundaries can become something else. It can become overextension. It can become self-neglect. Yeah. Did you catch that? Self-neglect. That's not healthy, right? It can become saying yes when something inside you is actually saying no. And so many of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that saying no was a problem. Yeah. So that setting boundaries was unkind. Or selfish. Or even wrong. But in reality, boundaries are part of healthy kindness. Do you agree with that? So they allow kindness to be real rather than forced, robotic, automaton. So they allow it to come from a place that's genuine, and intuitively a person responds to that and goes, yeah, this isn't contrived. As opposed to something that's drained or draining or pressured. So this idea, right, of the kind freedom to be kind, it includes both sides. Matt, what are you talking about? We've alluded to it. It's the freedom to give and the freedom not to give. Yeah, it's the freedom to say yes and the freedom to say no. So it involves the freedom to be present and the freedom to step back. How important is that? You can step back. And all of that can exist together. And there's no contradiction in that. Really. In fact, that balance is what makes kindness sustainable. Yeah. Because what happens without it? People burn out. Or they feel used, or they become resentful. That's not cool. That's not good. Because kindness then starts to feel like something very, very heavy, instead of something that's natural, spontaneous, good. And that's what we're talking about here. So another layer to this is how we relate to ourselves. Because sometimes the hardest place to experience kindness is inward. You might be patient with others, but really harsh with yourself, with oneself. So you might understand other people's journeys, but when it comes to self, guess what? We start judging it negatively, right? So part of this space, part of this open circle space as well, is allowing a bit of that kindness to turn inward. Not as a concept, but as a practice. Right? So maybe that looks like taking your time and finding joy. Find joy in the community. Yeah. Have joy in the friendships. That's part of taking time, is allowing that to come in and not rushing your process, not forcing yourself to be further along than you are. So maybe we can frame it this way. Just allowing yourself to be where you are. So there's something about rediscovering what feels natural. Because when you've been in structured or controlled environments, a lot of your responses, or a lot of our responses, can become patterned. Remember I was talking about robotic automaton mindset? So we might respond in ways that were learned rather than chosen. And so this becomes a kind of gentle reset. Not dramatic, not forced, just noticing. So here's a few questions. Ready? What feels true for me now? What feels natural? What feels like something I would choose freely? And sometimes the answer is simple. You know, sometimes it's just being quiet. Yeah, just being quiet. Or it could be listening. That could be it. Sometimes it's sharing something small. So there's no requirement here to be profound. Oh, I've read this particular psychology manual and this one, and I'm up to date on the pioneering front line. Yeah, it's all great stuff, but there's no requirement to be profound. None. There's no requirement to have a big story. Oh, I'll tell you a story. Man, it's going to just rock the establishment. It's going to rock your worldview. No, there's no competition for a big story. No requirement. If you happen to have a big story, that's also fine. I'm not knocking it. But I'm just saying that there's no requirement for a big story. Why? because just being present, just even being present, is enough. And so that's something I was hoping to emphasize clearly. That's what I'm endeavoring to do. Just emphasize that being present is enough, and do so in a clear way. So I'm going to repeat it. Being here is enough. Whether you speak or not, whether you join in on the video, and by the way, that might be challenging. Anything with technology, it could be a challenge to be involved in. If the live streams chat is stable, then that's wonderful. But sometimes, to rely on bandwidth and technology, and it can be a challenge. So whether you join on video, although we will do our level best to open it up, or to just stay in the chat, that could be being here. Whether you're fully engaged or you're just quietly observing, that's presence. And so that's part of this idea of freedom as well. Okay, because there's no attendance being taken. there's no expectation being placed on you or me or whatever. We're just here in the open circle. Why? Because we choose to be. You choose to be. I've chosen it. And that choice matters. So it's a small thing, but it's also a very real expression of autonomy. So as we move forward into the open part of the circle, I was just hoping to set a few simple intentions for the space. Okay, nothing heavy, just gentle guidelines to help things flow. So if you do choose to share, try to speak from your own experience. Okay. There's no need to represent anything larger than that. If you do have something profound, of course, don't hold back. But don't feel that there's this need to be larger than life. Just what's real for you. Keeping things reasonably brief also helps. Okay, that's a good one, because then others have space to share as well. And if you're listening, just listening can be enough. It is enough. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to respond to everything. Man, I've got 100,000 thoughts coming in here. Just being present is already a form of participation. And above all, kindness with boundaries. So that includes how we speak to others, how we take care of ourselves in the process. And so if something feels like, oh, this is too much, it's okay. It's okay. You can step back. It's okay to step back. If something resonates, you're welcome to engage. Oh, I love this. This is great. Love it. So there's room for both. And so the plan is, on this open circle, we are going to begin by opening the circle shortly. So we just thought just to open things on video, just to allow the live stream chat just to organically develop and unfold. And again, take your time. There's no rush. And if you're staying in the chat, you're just as much part of this space as anyone else. So we'll just allow things to unfold naturally and see who arrives. And I'm going to say thank you. Thank you again for being here. Shall we open the circle?